Hey guys, we get it. Installing epoxy floors can look intimidating, but today we're going to show you just how simple it is to create a beautiful epoxy floor every single time, and you can do it too. For every epoxy project, there's steps that have to be done, from prepping to mixing to applying your base coat to blending in your highlight colors to dispersing the surface, and today Leggari is going to show you it all. I'm Tyler with Leggari Products, and we're going to show you how a professional would install a decorative metallic epoxy floor. One of the most important parts of doing your epoxy floor project is the prep work. Now, this might not be the most exciting part of your project, but it is the most vital. It's the make it or break it step of how long your floor is going to last. And what I have here is the two machines that we recommend when prepping your floors. On my left, we have the Shot Blaster. This is the #1 machine we recommend. It's going to profile that concrete the best. It's going to do it fast, and it's going to be less dust that's coming out into the air. And then on my right, we have the concrete grinder. It still will get the job done. It just takes a lot longer to break down that surface profile of the concrete versus the Shot Blaster, and we recommend vacuum attachments on these machines. If you guys have smaller floors, smaller projects, or you're trying to hit your edges, we recommend an angle grinder with a diamond cup wheel and a dust buddy that can hook up to a vacuum, and this is what you do on edges or really smaller projects.
It's mixing time, guys. We are ready to mix up this 3-gallon kit. We are going to be using our 3P2 mixing process, and it's as simple as going up and down 3 times in the bucket, pouring into a secondary mixing container, and mixing the resin 2 more times, and I'll show you that now. So now we have our resin mixed 3 times, and this is the most important part of our 3P2 process, is pouring into a secondary mixing container. Now I just want to go over why that is the most important step of our 3P2 process. When we added our 2 gallons of Part A, that got all over the inside of our mixing container, and then we add our Part B to the middle. Now if you didn't do a really thorough job of scraping those sides, you run a chance of some of that Part A not being mixed in. So when we pour into our secondary mixing container, you know that all your resin is mixed thoroughly and that you can dump this bucket out on your floor and let all the resin drain out, and you won't have any issues with your epoxy setting up. So now we're gonna pour into our secondary mixing container. And then we're gonna use our 5-gallon paint stick. We're gonna start at the top, scrape all that resin down to the bottom. Do that again on the other side. We're going to scrape the bottom of our bucket. And then when we scoop the resin off the bottom, we want to scoop it and bring that 5-gallon paint stick straight up and scrape it off into our new bucket. So now that we got our resin mixed 3 times and we've poured it into our secondary mixing container, we're going to mix our resin 2 more times. And that's it, guys. That's our 3P2 process. If you guys follow this mixing process every single time, you will never have an issue with your resin setting up.
So we're getting ready to lay the base coat down, guys. One thing I do want to talk about is having the correct tools. One of the biggest things you want when you're doing your base coat is a Leggari notch squeegee. What it looks like is this, bunch of notches on the bottom, and what this specialty tool does is it puts the resin down at exactly 45 square foot a gallon. So what I'm gonna do to demonstrate that is I'm gonna dump a pile right out in the middle of the whole bucket, and then I'll be able to coat this whole floor by just spreading that out until I don't have any more product. Nice big pile. Now I don't recommend this, obviously. You'd wanna pour your beads around your perimeter like we always show, but I wanna demonstrate how cool this tool is. And there is a lot of notch squeegees on the market, but this one is specifically designed to put it down at 45 square foot a gallon. And I'll kind of demonstrate that right here for you. So I'll just kind of spread it out so I don't get resin all over this squeegee. And notice we got the bucket dumped upside down because we used the secondary mixing process. We're not worried about unmixed resin leaking off the edges because we mixed it correctly. All right, so what I'm gonna do, apply pressure and just start moving around the floor. Getting to my edges. And if you pour your beads around the perimeter, you'll be able to spread it out a lot quicker. This is just to demonstrate how fast and efficient our notch squeegees are. Oh, dang. Yeah, it broke the pole. Look at that, broke the pole right in there. You can see the rust. Old tool, man. But it's good because it's always good to have extra supplies and tools on your job site because this stuff happens. Okay, that one is no good. All right, pull number 2, guys. We got a new squeegee because I don't want to try to dig that handle out of the threads. Nice, perfect. Pulling that in. All right, guys, we're almost there. I'm just gonna do a final pass, fill in any spots that are missed. So how cool is that? Doesn't get much easier than that. We have a perfectly evenly spread out base coat at exactly 45 square foot a gallon. And remember, guys, I poured that in the middle, so it took a little longer. If you're doing beads around your perimeter and maybe a couple in the middle, you hit your perimeter real quick, spread out the middle, and you're done. It's super fast. Got a cool Leggari tip for you guys. After you spread your base coat out, what we do is we roll the floor real quick. Well, before you start rolling, we want to saturate the dry roller in different spots of that section of the floor. And what this looks like is I'll roll a little here. I'm going to just jump around because what happens is these rollers will soak up a decent amount of resin. And last thing I want to do is just stand in one spot and get this whole thing saturated. Now I have a thin spot there. So always jump around real quick, get this thing soaked up, different areas of the floor, and then start your rolling process, edge to edge, real quick. So Kyle bring up a good point. If I roll this too quick, I'm gonna be shooting epoxy up on the walls, and that's the last thing you wanna do. You can go quicker, but once you get to like an edge, you wanna slow it down. Another thing you'll notice, my roller is completely quiet. Reason is because we have a perfect even thickness out here from using our notch squeegee. If you have thin spots, your roller will sound super sticky. It'll be hard to move and push. It's just gliding across the floor. Second specialty tool, guys, our flat Leggari Squeegee. This works awesome for blending highlights in your epoxy floors and create some really cool looks. We also use these for our concrete overlay products. The biggest thing on the highlights is make sure I get color all throughout the floor before I run out. I can always go back and add more. And we're gonna just dump out and do a simple vein pattern. And you'll notice I'm doing different directions with my veins. I'm always cautious of what angle I'm pouring my veins out at. So what I'm doing here is I'm going and adding color right to my edges. Last thing you want, get a beautiful floor done and 2 inches all around your perimeter doesn't have any highlight color. We want this floor to look like it goes underneath the wall. Now that we have our highlights on the floor, we're gonna blend it with the squeegee. Now the trick with the squeegee is to hold it at a low angle. I'm trying to blend the surface. I'm not trying to move epoxy around. We don't want to thin any of the spots in the floor out. And what it looks like is this. And you'll notice I'll go different angles and directions. I'm gonna just start blending the floor. And if I move fast, you'll see chatter. So I'll kind of slow it down so I don't get that chatter.
For every kit you find on our website, we provide an in-depth, step-by-step tutorial for you to follow while doing your epoxy install. Now there's a lot we don't cover on our YouTube videos, but our tutorials help you get a perfect install every time.
Okay, so you got your base coat laid out, you got your highlights blended. The next thing after you blend your highlights is you want to look across the floor, make sure you didn't dig in too much to the resin and you see primer. We want to make sure everything's leveled out and then make sure you're happy with how everything's blended. And then once we're done and happy, we're going to disperse this. We're going to get a lot of cells in these pigments. So barely pulling the trigger, always test it. We're looking for medium, small, medium, even a couple large drips is good. And then we're going to go across the floor and just kind of let those droplets hit the floor. And so you'll see what I mean by the cells, and all these cells are gonna stay because these are pigments and not metallics. So we're gonna get some really cool dispersing effects on this floor. So, Leggari tip, guys, another one for you here. I'm going around and just making sure I got color right up to my edges. Now, like I said, we should have did this before we dispersed it, but that's all right. We're looking for this floor to look just like it's going underneath the wall. So any spots where there's no color, I'm just simply getting a little bit on my squeegee and just tapping that edge real light. And then I'll hit it with dispersing, and it's gonna look like it's going under that wall instead of a solid gray spot. So we're misting denatured now. Right over the floor, real quick, just a fine mist. We don't wanna flood the surface. It'll muddy out our colors and cells. So you'll see I'm moving quick. But you'll notice I don't even see any bubbles in this floor. But again, this is just kind of like an added step of protection in case there is anything in the floor that you missed. This will eliminate those air pockets. That's it, guys.